So you're telling me when a manager tells the exec team one story about why the project failed, and then they tell the dev team a completely different story, they're just adapting communication style?
Yeah, they're adapting, tailoring. How many times have we seen that in our path?
This is a chameleon that's shape-shifting directly in front of me. When you're in the room, they speak highly of you, and when you're out of the room, they're throwing you under the bus.
Oh boy. This is one of the reasons why this podcast is very critical for people that are in this situation. So we need to talk about this. So hang on, fasten your seatbelts, strap in.
If this is your first time, I'm your host, product manager Brian Orlando. This is my co-host, enterprise business agility consultant, Mr. Om Patel, and the Sultan of Swing. I think that's definitely one of his credentials.
That's both of us, though.
CIAs.
We're the Sultans. Sultans of Swing.
Like and subscribe, because every like helps podcasts. And today we're tackling a sticky subject: changing your language to suit your audience. And I'm going to be honest, I hate the advice that people usually give and receive when we're talking about this category. I hate it, because every time that what I see is someone who's really good at this, what we're about to talk about, changing your language to suit the different audience. When you speak to management, you've got to speak the language of management, because every time I've seen someone that's really advanced at this quote skill, they end up being the person who takes credit for your team's work by themselves and say it's all me, and then when things fail they blame other people, and they deflect all the blame from themselves, that kind of stuff. But this is what you're going to walk away with today from this discussion. There's a couple things you're going to learn to tell the difference between someone that's just adapting their communication style versus someone who's being a manipulative shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter. You're going to be able to tell the difference between wizards and what's the other one?
Lizards, I think.
Lizards?
We're back playing the game. It's a fun game.
That's it. That's the one.
We're rolling all the dice today. Let's see. The other thing is we'll give you a framework for testing whether someone's being strategic or slimy. Slimy and strategic, they're very close together. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then how to deal with different audiences without losing your integrity, and then becoming the person that I've been hating on for the whole introduction, the 19-minute introduction to this podcast.
There we go. So whether you're just freshly into the professional space or you've been here for a while, you know you're going to come across this at some point. If you haven't already, you will. That's an absolute ironclad guarantee.
Yes.
The results of this podcast will hopefully stand you in good stead to kind of navigate those choppy waters. So stay tuned.
Or your money back.
Or your money back. Exactly. This is worth every penny you didn't pay for.
All right. Let me ask you something. Have you ever worked with someone who tells the CTO the project is failing because of technical debt, and then tells the CEO that it's failing because of unclear requirements, and then tells the team it's failing because leadership keeps changing priorities?
So I'm going to go with the and first. Homage to people that pointed me out to this. And it's because the teams aren't very good at defining requirements and delivering to those, right?
I thought you were going to say because that person's a liar. That's what,
no, they're lying or they're being economical with the truth. Either way. So here, right, if you're a CTO who is in this situation, you're doing the best you can. We understand that. If you're a team member, though, your CTO is doing the best they can. Are you? Right? Are people changing the way they're speaking or their communication to basically satisfy a means to an end that's self-serving for them, right? Or are they being political and changing it in a way where blame is deflected somewhere else, except them, of course, but also hopefully if they're protective of your team, that they're going to try and shield you in some way. So the rest of this podcast is important if you're going to be successful in navigating this.
One would hope.
One would hope, and I think we can deliver on that promise.
Okay, so there was a small section in the... I don't reference Adam Grant that much because I don't really like his books that much. Shocker. But in Think Again, he names this thing about people who frequently change their message, not the delivery, the message, what's called narrative inconsistency, which, as you know, destroys trust, as you would expect. And I'm going to step back for a second and kind of define this problem, this part one of this problem, why we distrust, quote, adaptive communicators. I'm going to say effective leaders, like you said, they're emphasizing different aspects of the truth, depending on what the audience cares about. This is the typical advice that people will give, especially in the agile space. They'll say, oh, you got to meet that person where they are, like executive or C-level executive or whatever, and speak. Oh, you got to speak about EBITDA. You got to speak about earnings. You got to speak
their language.
Speak ROI. You got to speak their language. That's the main thing you'll hear. That's one point. The other one is using identical language with executives or developers or customers or whatever. That demonstrates a lack of emotional intelligence. The other point here, the other point in the against for what I'm saying is that if you never change your language, use the same language with executives or developers or customers and whatnot, that demonstrates that you have a lack of emotional intelligence, that you have a lack of the ability to tailor your message to the audience how they need to hear it to make impact. So those are the two. If I'm going to take a minute and kind of steelman, sorry, I never use the word steelman. Working in DC, like those guys love steelman and strawman. So I'm going to start working that in now because I know a bunch of them have been listening to the last couple podcasts on. That one's for you guys. That's my best steelman argument here is like the effective people here, like they're being economical with the truth. Maybe they're emphasizing aspects of it more with different audiences. And then the other side of it is like, well, if you don't learn to do that, you're never going to get to the top, right? And they're always going to be like, well, this person he can't speak the language. He can't be my eyes and ears. So I don't know why. I didn't mean to throw that one in there.
They're not effective communicators.
Yeah.
Tailoring your message, tailoring your communication language to the audience that you're targeting, that's one thing. Most people, I would say pretty much anyone who's listening to this did not go to a class in school that teaches you this stuff. You learn this by flapping your arms and trying to stay afloat. Yeah, that's the word that springs to mind. As you go through your career, we don't have these skills that are taught to us. So how do you get to that point where you can, A, survive, and hopefully B, thrive at some point?
Well, let's talk about that's the storybook against case here. So what do we really believe here? What are we trying to emphasize here? There's a couple points. The main one, which was my gripe that I started with in this podcast, was if the message changes, like you lose integrity with me immediately.
If you find out that the message has changed.
That's true.
So, the audiences are often insulated from one another, but often you do find out, right? Because somebody says something to someone. It's really about how far they drop in your esteem, right? Because they are just basically being a chameleon at that point. And if you're feeling that way, you can bet other people are too. Right? Yeah. So you have this compounding effect. And that person, the messenger, they stand to lose some credibility there.
Well, why are they doing that? Why would they do that? I only have one answer, and I'll throw it out right away. They're protecting their own reputation at the cost of everything else.
That's it. That's your ace card, and that's the only card in this deck, really. That's the reason why they do that, right? The opposite side of it is, they're going to put themselves out there and sacrifice their net worth, so to speak, to protect the team. I can count on one hand with fingers to spare how many people have actually done that in my experience. Very few.
Do you have a story? I
have a story of one time when a person did that, and they were the first people. When the team was teams in this case, when they were basically off-ramped, they were the first people one of the first persons to say, this is actually not right. The team is very good at what they do, and it's for other reasons, and they pointed out the reasons. And this was in a town hall meeting.
Yeah.
And I remember the leadership saying, well, if that's your position, the organization doesn't value that kind of an approach or an attitude. And they walked, and along with them, 6 other people walked.
Wow.
Right away. And they knew, these 6 knew, but those people that were now left wondering what's going to happen to us, they found out within a week.
Yeah.
They were all gone. So, look, I think it takes a lot for someone to say, I'm going to wear my heart on a sleeve and I'm going to just say what I feel, and to heck with the consequences, because it's the right thing to do. Most people don't do that.
I got a zinger for you.
Let's have a zinger.
My zinger is if you don't want your conversation played on the speaker, in fact, like when you call somebody and you're on the speaker on the phone and they're like, am I on speaker? That's this person. If you wouldn't say whatever you're going to say, hey, take me off speaker.
Usually a good red signal right there. Take me off speaker.
If you won't say on speaker to everybody what you would only say to one person, there's a good chance that you're not just adapting your communication style. You're changing the message and also covering your backside.
Yeah. Yeah, look, there's no arguing there. That's a telltale sign. The other telltale sign is when you're in a larger group setting and somebody presses you for an answer or an opinion or whatever, and there's a mixed audience there, right? So your get out of jail card there is, let's take that offline. Why are they doing that? Because honestly, if you have a message, just say it. But you're reluctant to say it because you have various messages. Mm-hmm. So you can pick up on that as a recipient of the message.
I have a takeaway here that I wrote down. Before you have your stakeholder conversation, you write down the facts of what you want to communicate. Because that stakeholder communication could be at any level. Could be, if you look at the podcast we did on stakeholder communication, it's Arguing Agile 201, Mastering Stakeholder Communication and Management, where we talked about the power interest grid and all that. But write down some facts that you need to communicate. And then no matter what audience you're talking to, you should be able to communicate the facts of the situation. Maybe you communicate the facts a little differently, or the different audiences want to dig in and ask you about different facts. Sure, but the facts of the situation don't change.
Yeah, that's true. If it helps any, right, you could use a loose framework like write down the interest groups, write down the facts as you would like to relay them in each of the columns for each interest group, and then sort those, right, so that the like facts are on the same row, so to speak, and then decide, given a certain amount of time that you have to speak, which ones are you willing to go with?
Yeah.
At least that way you're prepared with your communication message. So that might be helpful, it might not be, but it's just something I thought about you could do, because you don't have the floor for long, but what you say matters.
Yeah.
So
now it's up to the audience. What do you think about this category? Did we get this right? Have you worked with people who tells different stories to different people, and has that blown up for you? Or
what's been your experience?
What's been your experience? I want to move us on to a trickier conversation, because there is a legitimate benefit / purpose to adapting your communication style. And we have to talk about what that actually looks like when you're earnestly doing it, as opposed to
dishonestly do? No, I don't think that's a word.
The line between adaptation and deception is the next category. When I tell the CFO that it's going to take us like another month to do this thing that he thought was only going to take a week, because when we actually got into the code, we realized it was relying on a whole bunch of other stuff. And now that we're in the guts of the change, we have to do the right thing. That's not lying. Like that.
Well, that's evidence-based.
That's like, I'm translating by not taking him through every single technical detail that honestly he wouldn't want to hear anyway.
Yeah, and also you're not crafting the message to serve your purpose necessarily. You found out that the code has all these issues, etc. So it's evidence-based to me. It's just that does he want to see the evidence? If he does, you can present that, or she, right? Yeah. You can present that. So that's not really the problem necessarily. It's those people that are trying to hide things under the blanket, so to speak, and just say, well, we know our code is terrible.
Right.
So we have to come up with a reason why.
That's right.
It's complicated.
That's right.
Right? It's complex. It's like, well, you have no evidence behind that. You're just saying it's complex. You don't understand there are way too many moving parts. If your CFO is technical, or CIO, for example, if they're technical, or CTO, they can understand this. Other people in the company, they're going to take your word for it, because you're the trusted party here as an expert in your domain. So, it's complicated. So, you said it was going to take us, or you thought it would take us, I don't know, a month. It's going to take us 3 months. It's just the way it is.
Effective persuasion requires speaking to each audience, speaking to their different concerns and their different mental models. But the underlying data and the recommendations, those stay the same. So with that being said, let me throw out the Steelman side.
Steelman. I think we need a Steelman icon.
Steelman. I did the He-Man. Thanks for coming to the live podcast. So the Steelman. Here we go. Any change in language inevitably changes emphasis. And changing emphasis means that some audiences will have different impressions of priority and urgency, which is functionally the same as changing the message. Oh boy.
Well, we're transitioning now into changing the message.
So in practice, the line between translation and spin, it's very blurry, and it's safer to use consistent languages across all audiences to avoid even the appearance of manipulation, especially if you're one of these pathological organizations where Brian always spins. They caught you once slipping, and now Brian always spins the truth. So the better way is to never get caught playing that game, and you just speak one way. You speak with the facts, and there you go.
This is a great topic. This particular point, I think, is very, very good.
That's my Steelman.
So the thing about this point is it's who you're perceived as a communicator.
Yes.
Are you perceived as somebody who's always shifting from one foot to another? Or are you somebody who simply says, listen, here are the facts, or here's what I believe the facts are. There's a difference between those two as well. And then just objectively as possible, relay the message without looking to deflect blame in any direction, really.
The other one I've heard people use that is great is what I heard you say was, and then repeat something that was not what you said.
And now we're straight into politics. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So I want to go back, right? So,
Sorry, I jumped ahead in my
no,
experience.
this
You
is
can tell-
actually part of it.
I got a story coming up.
Yeah, yeah. So here's what I would recommend people to do. Do not use those corporate sayisms, right? Like, well, we're going after the low-hanging fruit. Well, how low does it have to be? Could a garden gnome reach it? I saw this meme today, but it's a very valid low-hanging fruits. Like, how low? How low is it? Do you need a ladder? Just say it like it is and say, we're going after something we can deliver in days instead of months, and then field for questions. So in your messaging, do not mix multiple topics. And at the end, just say, does anybody have any questions? People are still absorbing what you said because you had like multiple points you made. At every point you make, just pause and field.
Yeah.
If you really care to get that feedback, of course.
Yeah.
So that genuineness that you need to bring to the table. So don't use those corporate sayings that people often just throw in there. Everyday language.
I've got two things that I thought of from what you just said. Two things to point out from what you just said. Is translation of the message versus transformation of the message, which is also like co-opting the message, right?
Exactly.
So the translation changes the vocabulary, sure, but the message is the same. It preserves the core facts. Again, we come back to this. Just lay out the facts, right? Just the facts, ma'am. And then transformation changes the actual story. Who's responsible, what the problems are, what the perception of it. This is where like the OKRs bugs me in corporate America, because when the stress is on, like people will manipulate numbers and metrics to tell whatever story they want to tell. And I've seen people twist themselves into knots to manipulate that. I'm jumping forward to experience.
Yeah.
So the test here is if you take all of the statements that someone's made, again, this is the same test in this category as it was in the first category. If you take all the statements they made and you write them all down, you play them all back against facts, are they going to be parallel narratives, or are they going to be like, are they all going to lead back to the truth? This is sort of like the single source of truth, single document of truth kind of approach.
This is why cops single out people separately and ask them the same questions. What version of the story are you hearing?
All right, it's time for us to bend the truth. No, just kidding. You're an enterprise coach. You have to talk to development teams. You have to talk to leadership. You have to talk to sponsors, people that just manage money. They don't actually work on the software or use the software and meet customers. How do you keep the messages straight when you're talking to different audiences?
Yes, that's a really good question. I come from the position of it is what it is. And if I twist it, it's going to satisfy some people, but at the expense of taking off others that basically just say, why are we here? Right? So I come from a position of telling people exactly what's going on and then fielding for concerns and questions. But one thing I try to avoid almost always is casting blame, because it doesn't change things. You can cast blame all you like, but it doesn't change where you are. You're still going to be where you are. This is sort of like that old thing that I always talk about on the podcast is you hold up a mirror and say, like what you see? Sure, break the mirror. Bring another one. You're still going to like what you see. I've seen people, though, in other walks of life, including the field that I'm in, to come in and basically twist things a little bit here and there to the point where you think you're looking in the mirror, but it's like one of those circus mirrors. The images are not what they should be. Those kinds of trickery.
I'll say chicanery.
Yeah, chicanery. They don't last long. You get caught out at some point. And when you do, you fall a long way down. You lose credibility that takes so long to build and it's so quick to destroy. So don't do it, folks. It's not worth it.
So if you can't draw a straight line from what you told the CEO to what you told the intern and everybody in between, you're not translating. You're lying to multiple people.
You're transforming, Brian.
You're lying to multiple people in multiple languages.
You're a transformation agent.
Yeah, that's
is what
right.
You
so
are.
rather than speaking different languages, you're lying in different languages. And I would say you've done well, Grasshopper. You've learned well.
There you go. Distorting the truth.
You're ready for a life of crime. That's what I'm saying. To sell drugs, do crime. I don't know. Can we recommend here put the core facts in the center, and then you branch out to different audiences with different audience-specific language? Obviously, executives, they only want to hear about impact. The user of your software, they don't care about impact. They want to know about
what have you done for them.
Yeah, what have you done for them with their specific flow and stuff like that. So, again, we return to Arguing Agile 201 because, again, at the heart of a lot of this is you have to know how does that quadrant want to be communicated with and what is important for them. If the executive quadrant, they only want to hear about hard financial numbers, they want to hear about impact, but they want it to be in terms of financials and nothing else, which usually, especially in larger companies where they're so divorced from any one product, or if you have multiple products, they don't even care about talking about one product. They just want the numbers and everything else stripped out.
Yeah, again, we may have different people in the audience that are at different parts in their journey. So the advice I have for those people is, if you're not sure, don't be afraid to reach out to a peer. Go to meetups, go talk to people that are in the same field or adjacent fields. Reach out to them and say, what would you do in this situation?
Right.
Because you don't learn this stuff in school. So I would say reach out, learn from people, and live long and prosper.
I've got advice as a product manager for people but I'm telling you now, I don't think people are going to want to hear it. Is, first of all, go do your homework and watch Arguing Agile 201, and then Mastering Stakeholder Communication. And then when you've watched 201, actually do the grid. Write the grid down, start putting people's names in it, and then go and interview 20 people. That's 5 people per grid. Go and interview 20 people.
It's not a lot.
It is easally doable, but I'm telling, like, right now, like 95% of people just dropped off. No. And then ask them, like, how do you want, when I come up with new features, or when I'm going to release new things, or when I'm testing things or whatever, how do you want to know about it? I want to know about it before. Oh, I want a video demo. Oh, I want whatever. They'll all want different things.
Sure.
So, but talk to 20 people, and then come back and then get a handle on what your communication strategy is going to be. Because if your strategy is telling everyone what they want to hear and just taking all the promotions, and now suddenly you're running the business and all the product managers are under you because you're like, this is the episode we just put out. Yeah. A lot of people have landed themselves in this career with that, but they just like sign all the checks, whether they can be cashed or not. And suddenly they're like, success is their worst enemy. And this is a wild problem.
People have just become, you've just been promoted to your highest level of incompetence.
So the takeaway, again, in the center of that 2x2 is a circle, which is the core facts.
Right.
Because those facts have to be communicated. You start with the facts. No matter what the communication plan is you build for each stakeholder, you start with the facts and then you branch out from there. So the takeaway here is very straightforward and quick. And honestly, if you've talked to those 20 people, it's going to be pretty easy, believe it or not. It doesn't sound easy because, like, talking to those people and then wrangling all those cats. Is it cat wrangler? Are you a cat wrangler now?
Cat herder. Yeah. One thing you could possibly do if you're diligent about speaking to each individual for their own concerns is map those on the 2x2 and then draw a concentric circle around the 0, and figure out how many you can group together for a given communication method. That might be your kind of practical how-to. And that groups the 20, 25 people into groups that you can use for using specific distribution channels. Again,
we pass to the audience. What do you think about this category? Like, is there a clear line between translation and deception, I think, or am I off my rocker again? Like, am I on the sauce again? Is that what I'm asking right now?
You're not off your rocker. I mean, those of you that are excelling in one side of it or the other, you might be ready to go run for office.
But also, if you go listen to 201 and you look at the framework and you adopt that, I'm interested if you actually can use it and how it worked out. So if you just think about it,
and
take it offline.
Let us know in the comments below. We would really appreciate that. And also let us know while you're there, what are the topics you'd like us to delve into.
That's right. Now let's talk about the most dangerous place that this shows up. What managers say about you when you are not in the room. So here we go. We're going to be in the room where it happens. That one's for my coworker, Lauren. I would like occasionally when I'm working, she will like fire off a Hamilton related reference. And it's the funniest thing in the world. We're in a meeting and somebody says something. Anyway, that's for one person in the entire world right there. That's for Lauren. Right?
The depth we go to on this.
The room where it happens. What they say about you when you're not in the room. I can control what I say in the room. I can be responsible, like the old extreme ownership of like be responsible for what you can control.
Right.
But you have no idea if your manager is defending you behind closed doors with the rest of the management team or whatever, or if they're throwing you right under the bus. Be like, I could have succeeded if it wasn't for that darn kid Brian. I backed myself into a corner. The managers that I've worked with anyway, that are the best at, quote, adapting their language, those are the ones I trust the least.
Yeah, I mean, these are the people that are practicing ruinous empathy, right? As per Kim Scott's book.
Radical Candor.
Go read that, folks, if you haven't. I mean, these are people that will tell you one thing to your face, and of course, you don't know what they're saying to someone else because you're not in the room. Yeah. But you have that niggling doubt. Are they really sticking out for you, or are they, like you said, throwing you under the bus, but you're not aware, you don't see the bus or hear it coming?
Let me step in because it's time for the Steel Man.
Oh, the Steel Man coming!
You didn't know. There's so many Steel Men, and this is like it's raining Steel Men. It's starting to be a Village People reunion up in this.
It's raining Steel Men. Oh my!
Managers have to balance advocacy for their team members with organizational reality. And that sometimes that means acknowledging the limitations or failures that would be demotivating to share directly with people. I know what you're about to say, but
yeah.
wait. I got another one. It gets better, trust me. But the story might be negative. Anyway, it's like we're children. Transparency will hurt our feelings. And I know. Step back. I got another one. All right.
Okay, let's go.
Expecting your manager to say identical things about you is naive in the corporate world because context determines the appropriate amount of disclosure, especially with HR involved and the legal action. I'm trying to throw out all the excuses in the world. I'm getting them all out, and so we can just collectively push them off a cliff here in a second. Okay, so that's the end of my steel man. I'm sorry, that was the worst steel man I'm going to do on the podcast. Did you like that one about like, oh, we got to balance the advocacy because I mean, what if it hurts? What if it's scary for people?
There are some organizations where they take this to the extreme. Right.
They take it to the limit.
Oh God, yeah. So,
one more time.
Yeah, one more time.
Didn't know we'd be quoting Eagles this podcast.
Exactly.
There'll be more of that where it came from.
There's a lot.
Life in the fast lane.
Oh, I know. I can tell you what. There's no pretty maids all in a row here.
Oh.
All right. So where were we? Oh yeah. That's.
We were trying to check out, but we can never leave.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, well, I think we've all stated that. Hotel California. Oh. Listen, if you've ever been in a situation where the one-on-one you come out of and you're feeling really, really good, right? Because your manager fluffed your feathers, and then you have this other meeting. Let's just say, maybe that was about, I don't know, getting a pay raise because that's not the crux of the one-on-one. It's other meetings where that happens. And suddenly you get a different vibe there. Something's kind of off key here. And so you can get an idea pretty quickly where things have gone awry. You heard what your manager thought you should hear as opposed to what you really needed to hear. Mm-hmm. Now, two things here. I'm not going to blame the managers only for this, although they're not getting off scot-free either. But as the recipient of the message, one of the things you need to do is don't just feel good about what you're hearing and walk out of the meeting. Just write down that stuff. Right after the meeting, hit back in an email to that manager and say, thank you for your time. Here's what we discussed. Here's what I thought I heard you say. Yeah. Put all of those things down because all you're doing is you're gathering at that point some evidence that you could use, probably futile, but it's better than nothing, right? When you're passed up for that promotion or that pay raise.
I think I'm going to stay with the steel man.
This is a plastic man. He's not a steel man.
I think I'm going to go put on my cop outfit and hang out with the steel man while they're raining men over here or whatever. I might have to throw on my Cher outfit and turn back time for Halloween over here because I've worked for a manager before who says, oh, you're doing great. When they turn around and say, this person's struggling.
Yeah.
They're not protecting my delicate frame or whatever when they're doing that. All they're doing is undermining me.
They're undermining you, but also they're not really even good managers at that point. These are people that are just pivoting at the direction of the breeze.
And also, there's another saying that I've heard before that, as a manager, it's my job to put up the umbrella and shelter you from all the organizational things that may rain down on you. But I remember thinking differently when I became a manager for the first time in my career, where I had to hire people and that kind of stuff. Of this is absolutely not you can't. What are you gonna do? Shelter your people from everything and become the organization's boogeyman, bad man? You know what I mean? Not organizational Batman. You're not gonna be able to shelter people. The better thing to do would be to be transparent about everything. And now you don't need to shelter anyone from anything. They're not children. What are you sheltering them from?
This is where a lot of people, when I hear, again, one of those corporate sayisms that I say we should stop using, right? You're not a family. The work is not your family. Family doesn't fire one another. So when you hear these things, feel free to politely just say, that's great, but Uncle John, right? You're not my uncle, really. I don't even have an Uncle John or Bob or whatever. No, seriously, though, you need to think about this, and recognize the symptoms when people are just simply blowing smoke. But it's prerequisite. If you're going to stay in the corporate world for any length of time, you're going to come across this all the time. People will say all of those things and you feel, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I've been told that by my boss. And then before something else happens, not so pleasant. So, and I'm not saying you'll get fired or anything like that. I mean, it can just be simple. You thought you would get that promotion, or you thought you would get that pay raise, or nothing like that even. So learn to recognize those kinds of things. And after a while, you'll see there's a pattern here where the same people will do these things to you. So when they do, next time around, just say, well, this is fine. Would you mind if I recap our meeting in an email? Or don't even ask for permission, just do it. What's the worst that can happen, right? You're just recapping an email, summarizing it. I don't know. It'll make you feel good. Don't be that manager when you become a manager. Okay.
I think I'm depressed in this category. I think all you're doing is documenting, like negotiating for better severance. I think that's the only thing that's happening in this category. I would say your manager's integrity is not measured by what they say to your face. It's measured by what they say when you're not in the room. And boy, I don't even know how you get to measure whether that compass is off or not. That's my issue.
The symptoms, I guess.
That's why this category is depressing for me. Like,
I agree.
If I have a takeaway, and this is not going to be a great takeaway now, is next time you have a one-on-one with your manager. So I guess if you work for Mark Zuckerberg or Jensen Huang, forget about it. But when you talk to them, when you ask them when you're in your next one-on-one, hey, when you talk about my performance in leadership meetings, what are the main points you emphasize? You know, and then a good manager will tell you directly, and a bad manager is going to deflect or get defensive. And then again, you have to follow up and say, hey, is there anything else that you say in those meetings that would surprise me? If you work for a bad manager right now, even bringing this kind of thing up, they're going to be like, why? What have you heard? What have you heard?
Right.
What have you heard?
Right.
Who said
that's that insecurity? In that case, hey, listen.
Yeah.
That resume updated.
I don't like. Again, I'm angry with this category because I have too many bad experiences here. Like this
I do too.
So back to the audience. Have you ever asked your manager what they say about you when you're not there? Drop a comment. I'd be interested to know if anybody actually admits what they say about you in the dark. What? So that brings us to the political operators, the people who've turned adaptive communication into a dark art. So the people who weaponize adaptive communication.
The sorcerers.
Yes, the sorcerers. They have a pan with sauce. Anyway, I keep using the word political like it's a 4-letter word, right? The trade-off in this category, which I'll get to in a second with my steel man, okay? The political operators, the quote political operators, maybe they're just better at navigating organizational politics and complexity than the rest of us. Maybe that's a truth, and maybe we should be learning from them.
Well, it depends on what your MO is, right? If you want to get up ahead in the organization, there is no other way. Mm-hmm. So the most effective communicators are those ones that can change very quickly based on who they're speaking with.
Yeah. Oh, you mean manipulating the narrative?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's, you bring us back to the core issue of the podcast, which is I'm saying that manipulating the narrative, that's changing the message. That's not just language.
You might think that's a nefarious thing to do. However, this can only be contrasted with the level of success these people achieve. There's a reason for that, right? So if you're ethically bound to not do this and just stand for what's right, etc., great. Stay with that. But also, don't expect to be drifting along the halls of whatever floor your sea level
the halls
is, right?
Of power, that's right.
Don't expect that because that's not going to happen.
Well, you don't even know it, but you're in the Steelman point right now. You might as well continue, because what you were just saying in the Steelman position was the organizations are inherently political systems. They just are. People who refuse to adapt their communication style to deal with organizational politics, they're just choosing to be ineffective at organizational politics, and therefore they're basically kneecapping the rest of their career. That's what you're saying.
It's true. However, I think we've kind of just pointed out the binary situation, right? There are those people that can judiciously operate in the space where they just sprinkle up enough. On the whole, they also care about people to not throw them under the bus.
Yeah.
I've worked with a couple of people like that over the whole of my career. Only come across very few. I count on one hand with fingers to spare. But these people are genuine in that you don't see them necessarily sacrificing others for their own well-being or for their own interest even, to progress their own purposes. So these people will be the first to say, the teams are experiencing this, but when it's the right time, they will also twist the message the way they feel the message should be twisted.
Yeah.
So it's not a binary. I don't know. Maybe it's possible for you to do that and walk on a tightrope.
Well,
and it takes time to develop that.
Well, then let me then step into my office and let me tell you a story. Let's see if I can't change your mind.
All right, let's go.
I'm going to take the steel man off the screen for a second, and you can step into my office, because I'm going to tell you that these quote political operators, these refugees from the truth right now, they have 3 patterns Okay? They have 3 patterns. Number 1, they take credit for collaborative work. Get on a call with 2-3 other developers. You work through this real sticky bug, a real impactful feature or whatever. And then that one person comes out and claims credit for all of it. Number 2, they shift blame whenever the outcome is poor. So they are still on that call or whatever. They still do the thing with the bug. But then if it's badly perceived, they find a way to exit stage left. They were never even involved. You didn't even see them. They were never here.
Yeah.
And then number 3, their story about events changes based on who holds power. So I just gave you the 3. So for all y'all listeners out there, I don't know why I went into my Morgan Freeman voice. For all y'all listeners out there looking to exploit the side of evil for love and profit, I just gave you the 3-step plan. It's different than Carmen's 4-step plan, but very slightly different.
Yeah, very slightly, but also I think this is something that even Morgan Freeman wouldn't necessarily disagree with. If your interest is self-interest, primarily and for the most part, that's what it is. This is what you show up to work for.
Yeah.
Then those 3, underscored by it takes what it takes for me to succeed. I mean, you will succeed. There's no doubt. I hope you can sleep at night. Some of us can't, but that's more on us than anything else. So those 3 points are solid. Again, if you can do this, but also not sacrifice those that are you do credit, but also you don't have to necessarily take credit. You also don't necessarily have to cast blame either, right? You can look at the facts and go with that. Mm-hmm. So especially on the blame side, on the credit side, give credit where it's due. Yeah. End of story. And a leader should recognize that. But in terms of casting blame, I fundamentally believe everybody comes to work to do a good, solid day's work. It's not like people come in to say, well, let's just fail this sprint or this month. Nobody does that. But when things go badly, look at the factors and tackle the issue, the problem, not the people. Mm-hmm. So casting blame on the people, it's not going to go well for long anyway.
Yeah. Well, I have the other side of this is political operators are never wrong. I got the career story of this one. I got you on this one as far as like an actual evidence for my career.
Yeah.
Because political operators are never like the story. When I said number 3, the story about events changes based on who's in power. So they end up on the right side of the story. For example, I was at a company one time where the CEO changed. And all of these political operators saw which way the wind was blowing. So the way they say, well, I had never agreed with the thing that you disagreed with, Mr. New CEO person or whatever. They're recrafting all their stories to be like, oh, I always agreed with you. It sounds funny. It was never this like overly dramatic, melodramatic kind of performance they put on. It was just a subtle adjustment that was just creepy enough to be perceived by all the workers as like exactly what it was. I mean, and the best story I have for this, and I've told this on a podcast, but I'm pretty sure I've not told this story on a podcast in like 150 episodes of I worked in one place that there was this prima donna developer. He was an exceptional developer, first of all. Out of all the developers, he had been at the company the longest. So when you're a developer, time and service is like tribal knowledge right there. So you happen to know certain pieces of code, what they do, and you're more familiar with them and stuff like that because you've just spent more time. So he was sort of like management's go-to guy. The hey buddy development, middle of the night kind of knocking stuff out, making everyone else look bad because like, oh, I punched this stuff out overnight. What are y'all lazy people doing?
Right.
And these 3 patterns I pointed out, that was him to a T. When stuff was going on, he would be the first guy to be like, I resolved the bug. I worked late and did this new feature or whatever, and he completely pulled the wool over management and everyone else's eyes. Well, the rest of the development team and the QA and everybody else was like quiet folks, heads down, getting their work done day to day. You know what I mean?
But he's the teacher's pet.
Not really kind of seeking glory or whatever. And at one point, we were peer in the organization. I was just a QA engineer, and he was just a development engineer, whatever they call it, software engineer, right? And I just watched him rise and rise and rise to a high-level supervisory type of role. And it was just bananas because it was just this kind of stuff. Just changing his story to always be on the right side of whatever argument or always be seen as a hero, shifting blame off to the team whenever a failure would happen. And I remember exactly when I knew that my time at that company was done. This is untenable. I can't live with this person anymore. I can't sit by anymore and have my credit claimed by this person anymore. Right. Because we had just pulled like a very in-depth sprint where we committed to way too much stuff. And we ended up knocking things out, making the sale, getting the big customer. We ended up knocking out the real impactful features. We ended up selling the customer, making the sale. We ended up basically cashing the check that the sales folks and everyone in the company wrote. We did it on time, under budget, that kind of thing. And it was in front of the whole company and the CEO and the C-suite. It was a big like, hurrah, yay, we did it event. The whole company is standing there. And I remember I was standing sort of like in the back, and I could see my team. I was a manager at this point. I could see my team on the other side of the room, and the CEO was calling up the different department heads. And every single department head was like, this was a major opportunity, and I couldn't have done it without this person, and I couldn't have done it without this person. And some people handed off to their subordinates to make little mini speeches or whatever. Yeah. Or thanks to this person, they stayed on the phones a line. Thanks to this person, they went to the customer site and they slept under a table and whatever. And then they handed it over to this guy. And he was like, yeah, it took a lot of late nights and I was deep in the code, but eventually I got it over the finish line, and I'm happy that you all are. And I was like, wow. I was like, this guy just took credit for the entire development department. He handed off to nobody. He gave credit to nobody but himself in front of the whole company. Got no pushback from anybody. And I knew that. I was like, I'm done here. That was my moment of zen, my moment of clarity, that a whole world came together.
These people that are like the person you're describing also have another characteristic that often goes hand in glove with, who they are. And that is they hoard knowledge. So they're not going to mentor other people because their equity is their knowledge. So they're going to hoard that knowledge. Right. And when you see those kinds of things happening in your organization, you can kind of bracket people, that person. Chances are they're going to claim all the credit and cast all the blame. If you're in an organization where there are people like that and no one is speaking up, you could be the person who speaks up. Kind of a risque move too, because these people are already management's pet. So yeah, keep that resume updated, but then speak up. People like this, when they move up in the organization, they don't change as a person. They're going to have the same MO going up and up. So again, just be aware that these people aren't going to change. If you're in that organization, you've got to either make a decision to put up with it or leave.
So I've got a zinger for you. It's political operators. They collect allies, and political navigators build relationships. One is transactional, and the other is transformational, and everybody can tell the difference.
Everybody should be able to tell the difference. I mean, even the newcomers, you don't have to be on the job for very long to be able to see this, right? You hear people talk, and you'll pick up on the situation. So I agree. I think it's pretty clear. There are very few people that can kind of straddle those two. People are either on the left or the right, so to speak, right, on this scale. Depending on where you aspire to be, you can align yourself with these people, right? Yep. I don't advise anybody to be on that other side. I mean, but hey, again, don't take advice from me because
you can align yourself to these people. That's just like the Game of Thrones.
Oh,
At what season are you going to get wiped out, basically?
Sure.
Like, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. I have a takeaway here. I don't know if it's good, so I'll let you figure out. So there's this credit to blame asymmetry from my story about when I needed to get away from this person, right? And when you go through that experience, it kind of opens your mind to always be looking out for people like that are using this I language. And in fact, I wonder if you've heard this about like, when you're interviewing, you need to use I language, not we language, because people want to hear that you did the thing. And you're like, yeah, but I didn't directly do the thing. I was part of a team and the whole team did the thing. And maybe I'm like, as a product manager, my job is kind of to navigate the team and that kind of stuff. I'm not doing every single thing myself. And in modern business, anybody who's actually doing successful business knows that things are done as a team. Very little things are done as a solo operator, as the hero or whatever. And then they ask you to change your language to make yourself into the hero.
Yeah.
And I just don't like that. I don't think it's good advice. I'm looking out for people doing that because I'm labeling those people as like, ooh, there's an ego right there. I don't know if I can navigate that ego or coach or manage up or whatever the other things are.
First of all, it's terrible advice in interviews to always focus on the I, because anybody should know that one person doesn't do all this stuff, right? I'd rather focus on having improved the conditions for my team to succeed. Because isn't that what I'm really being interviewed for, not to be the solo hero here? Yeah. That would be my focus. If you're seeing people who interview like that and you happen to be on the other side of the table where you're the interviewer, ego is one thing. I mean, these people have got bad advice, right? To your point, focus on you. They're the ones that are always saying, in my actions led to an improvement of 12%. Okay, fine. But really, what did you do to make that happen? I mean, you can interview around that, but yeah, it is terrible advice to always focus on the I language. Whoever came up with that.
I think it's just the pathological nature of the organization showing through to be like, we're looking for heroes. We're looking for 10x developers, and we're all out of H-1Bs to exploit or whatever.
No, I think the same people that put in their JDs that we're looking for a team player.
But this thing, looking out for people that are claiming credit, while those three things I listed before, looking out for that, that shows a pattern. That's a political operator, and you need to distance yourself. It's amazing. We haven't even brought ourselves to our advice.
Yeah, distance yourself or
keep that resume up. That's right. So have you worked with a political operator? I want to hear all about it.
Let us know your anecdotes in the comments.
I want to hear your horror stories. So if we don't want to be shapeshifters, but we do need to communicate differently with different audiences. Like, what does that look like in practice? I'm sure there's people already screaming at their TVs, at their phones, at their cars. So how to adapt your communication without losing your soul, without giving up your integrity?
Boy, what a great question. I think, first of all, be led with the truth instead of trying to figure out how you can manipulate the message. Because honestly, at the end of the day, true leadership should value the message that comes across as a true message. If this is really what's going on, and now look at why, which could be the positives and the negatives, as opposed to going in with those kind of nuanced themes that often people do. So the best advice I can give you is be data-driven and be transparent and say the team either succeeded or didn't succeed, and here are possibly some of the reasons why. So at that point, you feel free to call out on team members and say, well, what do you have to add to that, right? Well, how would you characterize the nature of how we fared? Not necessarily failed. What did we learn? Also, if we succeeded, what factors contributed to our success so that we may repeat some of those same things in the future? Feel free to call on your team. So the message isn't just you delivering something, whether it's upstream or sideways or whatever it might be. And that way you're hoping that you can be more authentic in your messaging instead of, again, being kind of slimy and come across as something that is serving you over and above everybody else.
For this category, we have a little bit of a framework, maybe some guidelines to help. We have a 3-point test. Again, we're very borderline about the Karpman 4-point plan.
3.
Yeah, we like 3. We like 3.
Dry.
That's right. And the 3-point test is going to go something like this. It's going to say, test number 1, consistently state the facts. So you have facts that you can write down. That was at the center of our circle before.
Yeah.
You have a transparency test. We're not trying to hide the truth to protect people's feelings. I don't know a better way to say that, but basically, would you be comfortable if all the stakeholders heard all of your different versions of messages, or would that make you nervous? That's really the transparency test here.
Right.
And also, like if meeting notes were automatically constructed by AI of every meeting you're in, and then somebody had the wherewithal to put them all together, would you see different stories emerging? Would your sliminess be revealed? Would the light come on and all the cockroaches scatter at that point? These are the questions that keep me up at night. And then recommendation number 3 is the consistency test. Your proposed action or decision should be the same across all your audiences, which is basically the same as point 2, transparency. So those are 3 things that give you an A in integrity. In my book, anyway, that's it.
I fully agree. And also, don't expect to just be there, right? Quickly, because this takes time, especially if you've been used to manipulating the messaging, right? It takes time to get from there to the other side. So give yourself the time, celebrate the quick wins, etc.
As a product manager, again, if you've got that 2x2 and you have executive stakeholders and you have like users of your software, they both want to know, like, did this thing scratch the itch? Did this feature, or maybe it's a test. Maybe we're testing a market or something like that. Did this thing resonate with the audience? I mean, you're relieving their pain point. That's one way to talk about it. You talk about it in terms of the pain point and how easy it is to relieve the pain point with the feature you just came out. With the executives, it's a matter of adoption numbers or revenue numbers or whatever they care about. In the product management world, it's not difficult to separate these things. They are the same message. It's just The users don't care about adoption unless you're doing a bit of marketing to them and doing some social proof style marketing. 75% of users love that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is gimmicky to individual users, but to executives, they love that kind of stuff.
I think there are techniques you can use. So, like for example, if you had both audiences in the same room.
Yeah, the room where it happens. That's right.
Exactly. One of the things you could do is just spin up a simple whiteboard with a dartboard with only like 3 bands. There's the bullseye, the concentric circle around it, and another circle around that, and that's it. Really simple, easy to do in pretty much any tool. And ask the users to put a mark, an X or whatever, in the circle that represents how best their needs were met by whatever you delivered. And just have them do that, not the executives. When they do that, ask them to say, okay, what would it take for us to move that X closer towards the middle, to the bullseye, right? Now the executives are listening to all this. No, you're hearing it straight from the users. Mm-hmm. And there's no sugarcoating because you're not the translator or relayer of the message. It's the same message that they're hearing. Try something like that. And then afterwards you could talk to your stakeholders or your executives and say, you heard the users, right? Yeah. Yeah. Now, here are ways that we can potentially get them closer to the bullseye. You've cut out so much crap by just doing it in a simple way like that, right? And you're just the facilitator. Right. You have no axe to grind here and saying, well, shouldn't it be closer? You're not anchoring them in any way, right? Mm-hmm. It's just a suggestion, but I think you could do a lot worse.
Integrity, it isn't about using the same words with everyone. It's about ensuring that if everyone compared notes, your story wouldn't fall apart. Right. The detective is over here.
Exactly.
Comparing notes. Yeah, and like if you're going to try that 3-part framework, again, look, we're just throwing out ideas. Like, I mean, the real idea here is like not to work with people that are ethically limited. So let us know if this was useful to you. Yep. I want to bring us to the last category. So what I've been dancing around the whole episode. Wait, where is it?
It's down the bottom.
What I've been dancing around the whole episode is I'm not worried about techniques. I'm worried about trust. That's because once you lose your reputation with whichever audience that we're talking about on the 2x2, you don't get it back.
Yeah, and it takes a long time to build up that trust to a deeper level, and then it takes very little time to lose it. So yeah, absolutely. Trust is fragile.
Amy Cudd, a Harvard Business School professor. That's right. She did a study that found that competence does matter, but trust is built through behavioral consistency over time, not through any one particular event, which I feel like that's the most common sense study ever done in the history of studies right there.
Yeah, I mean,
trust takes time to build.
Trust takes time to build, and it's something that trumps pretty much most other things like technical competency, etc. I don't see how you argue against that, honestly.
Well, step into my office because get ready for the Steel Man. Here we go.
Let's go with the Steel Man.
Here we go. Let's say reputation is primarily built through results and competence. As long as you deliver the outcomes, people will trust you regardless of minor inconsistencies of how you communicate. So your reputation is built through being consistent with your small wins over time. And as long as you keep delivering, people will trust you. The great part about product management is if you can deliver small wins consistently, like this is the best thing about Agile, which most people miss. If you are delivering working software on a regular cadence, that cadence might be every 2 days, cadence might be once a week, the cadence might be once every 2 weeks, and people can set their watch to working software delivered. Everything else, every other challenge fades away because people are going to know their next window to get working software is this. And they're going to set their watch to it. And over time, that's how you build trust. You just small wins delivered consistently on a rolling cadence, and enough of them, you stack enough of them, and you'll get there.
Yeah, I think trust is at different levels in that scenario. One is with the customers to consistently expect on a regular basis some value.
The reason I brought that up was the minor inconsistencies about how you communicate. Oh, Brian he didn't tell me the impact of widget A or B or whatever. Yeah. Oh, that's just the way Brian communicates. He likes to get into the weeds. Or, oh, that's the way Brian communicates. He can't really get in the weeds when you press him. Because I've seen both of those, right? People will forgive that kind of stuff as long as they keep getting their widgets, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Keep giving me this on a regular basis, and I will forgive a lot of that kind of stuff. You're saying that building a reputation for integrity, it requires like a long game of consistent communication and changing your language for these audiences consistently and building that up over time. And when the steel man here is, as long as you're punching out wins, people will forgive your inability to dial the message in exactly perfectly for the audience.
A couple of things I want to say with that one.
Okay.
Consistently churning out wins doesn't happen without establishing trust at a different level with your teams. You give them the freedom to do things the way they feel they should be done. You're building trust with the customer by delivering on a regular basis some sliver values. That's one thing. However, that consistent cadence isn't guaranteed.
Yeah.
Things will happen. You will come across some headwinds where you fail a little bit. Not necessarily fail completely in delivering something, but the quality of the value you deliver might be subpar at some point. There's a reason. We don't even have to worry about the reasons. But when that happens, there is a direct challenge almost to what happened. You're always delivering good stuff, and what happened, right? At that point, how you behave matters. At that point, do you just say, well, it's the team or whatever? Or do you just take it on the chin and say, yeah, we messed up? How do you stand up right there? That's what establishes your integrity and either further builds and strengthens the trust with your customers, or it erodes that trust.
Reputation is like nebulous. I almost didn't even want to include it here because it's the sum of, if I have to define it, I'm going to say it's the sum of what people say about you when you're not in the room. Like that
legacy also, right?
Right. Yeah. That's the reputation I'm talking about here. It is, but if you're one of these people that their narrative is, quote, inconsistent, that stuff is going to stick out. And I will say, even one of those times, that sticks with people far longer than any one-off wins or whatever. Once, and now I'm on edge. Twice, and now like your integrity is in the toilet, probably where it belongs. Once, and now I'm in this mode where I'm looking to catch you. Sure. And that now our relationship is on the rocks. Yeah. So it's like, what can you do? Just don't get in. The best way to avoid it, don't get in that situation in the first place, is what I'm saying.
Oh, so you're glad when the customers praise you, right, for the successes. Yes. Well, own up to failure. You're human. Own up.
Sorry, I mean, these people just can't.
I know.
The individuals we're talking about on this side, they just can't. Like this, and honestly, it would be easier for this podcast if these were not the most successful people that I've worked with.
Agree. Listen, that's true. These people often fall over their own egos before they can own up to anything. But yeah, I agree. They tend to be more on the successful side. Yeah, not everyone can do that and still get a good night's rest. So. Yeah. It depends on you as an individual as to what you aspire to be.
I would say it's easier to do it when you're not in a pathological organization where everyone's trying. Like once the system becomes corrupted, you get more of this, and the more of this, the more corrupt the system becomes, and then it feeds itself.
Yeah,
so like
exactly.
The keep your resume updated advice here is not. It's not off point. I mean, if you see this stuff happening and you start catching people changing the message, not the communication style. You see it once, you see it twice, you see these people get promoted, like in my story that I told earlier, where there was a particular person I worked with at a company that they just kept getting promoted and promoted and promoted, and every time they would stand up in front of a crowd, it would be all about, I did this and I did that. It was a whole team achieving the thing at that point. He was a manager or a director or somebody who was far removed from the day-to-day work.
Yeah.
So it's not even like him claiming credit was close to the truth. He wasn't actively writing code at that point. So it was a far exaggeration that he had resolved any bugs. Everybody knew. It was a flat lie that everybody could transparently see through, but it's like management just didn't care to see through it.
Yeah. Sad.
This is why I bring you back to your reputation isn't what you say about yourself, and it never was. It's about what the stories people tell about you when you're not in the room or when you're gone.
Or when you're gone, exactly. So often you'll see people contact you long after you've left the company to say, hey, listen, in case you're looking.
Yeah.
That's your reputation. Yeah. That's the reason why they're calling you, right?
Yeah. For anyone listening to this category, what is your take here? Is reputation really built on the consistency of your communication? Does it matter at all? Am I overthinking it? Like that? This is what I want to know in the comments. among other things. But that moves us to, what did we talk about today? What did we learn today, I think?
Well, we learned that you could either be a sleazebag or a good person and sleep well at night.
Wait.
No, we didn't learn
Be a
that, sorry.
sleazebag and get promoted, or be a good person and not get
and
promoted?
not get promoted.
Oh, boy.
You sleep under a bridge.
I don't know if we're coming to the right takeaways for this
we're
podcast.
not.
Well, as long as we're not at the right takeaways, like can subscribe, that's...
Let's do that. Don't weaponize adaptive communication. Be on the straight and level. That's basically it.
Two things that kind of came out of this podcast that ring out for me. Number one is to not be a manipulative shapeshifter. You need consistency of facts and you need transparency. So if those two things don't exist, then off to the races. And weaponizing this adaptive communication to put you ahead.
The expense of everyone else.
Those are the two things that ring out to me of the big takeaways in this podcast.
I agree with that. The only I really in your messaging is integrity, and that's not something you can buy by the pound at the farmer's market. You've got to build to it. You've got to invest in it, and it will pay dividends a long time in the long run.
Yeah. Well,
cool. Well, that's a wrap. So like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.